Hello, everyone. I'm Aarti Malhotra, moderator for this session. Hope you all are enjoying the Toronto Machine Learning Society's Healthcare Summit so far. I have the privilege to introduce Ms. Sanjana Basu, an investor at Radical Ventures, which is a $325 million Series A fund investing in bold entrepreneurs developing and applying AI to invent the future. She's an MBA from IIM Bangalore, undergraduate in economics and international relations from Tufts University in Boston, USA. She has worked with Barclays as investment banker and also with Tata Group in India. She focuses on intersection of AI, healthcare, learning, and commerce. Please join me to welcome Ms. Sanjana to present her work for the benefit of all. If anyone has any question, please feel free to post in the chat. We'll have a Q&A session after the talk. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Aarti. And hi, everyone. Like Aarti said, I am an investor at Radical Ventures. We're very proud to be one of the largest AI-focused funds in North America and have a unique insight in the space because the founders of the fund were AI operators who built and scaled many AI companies and also launched the Vector Institute here in Toronto that many of you know about. Like Aarti said, healthcare is actually a major focus area for us, and roughly 1/3 of our investments are in the space. And we have a very strong thesis on Canada's unique AI and healthcare advantage. So today I'll be taking you through three main sections. So one is an AI-enabled future of healthcare. Second is why Canada has a unique advantage. And third is who are the Canadian AI and healthcare companies disrupting in the space currently? And we're releasing a market map exclusively today at TMLS. So first, to just set the context, I think we all know that the pandemic massively accelerated digitization in the healthcare sector. And with systemic changes, behavioral changes that led to this tech acceleration. And we see the future emerging from this inflection point play out in two waves. So in the first wave, which is the blue line, we see digital tools become mainstream. And we expected this to occur over 3 to 5 years, but COVID accelerated that. And examples of digitization or mass-scale digital adoption have been in telehealth, remote primary care, back office and front office digital infrastructure tools. In the second wave, more importantly, which is the pink line, we believe that AI will be at the center of healthcare innovation and that we will see AI companies come to the forefront that build upon the massive data assets and the digital infrastructure set by wave one. So this is the macro opportunity in front of us. So how do we take advantage of the tailwinds in healthcare, and why is Canada positioned to do so well? So there are two major competitive advantages that we see. So on the left-hand side, the first one is that Canada is an AI center of excellence and a brain-drain market for AI. It has one of the highest concentrations of leading AI researchers in the world, 109 leading AI researchers, including Yoshua Bengio, Jeffrey Hinton, and several others. More broadly, recent data has shown that Toronto ranks number one as the fastest growing tech talent market and has the third largest tech talent pool in the world just after the Bay Area and New York. And this doesn't even include Kitchener and Waterloo. And the tech talent concentration is 10.2% of the entire employment concentration. The second point is that Canada has always been a world leader in AI fundamental research, and as a result, will produce the most AI graduates anywhere. In the last 2 years, there have been 4,000 research papers published, 2,400 master's and doctoral students trained. And then finally, we're already seeing an explosion of AI startups. Just in the first 6 months of 2021, there was $1.4 billion raised by AI startups, which is up close to 200% from last year. So that's one part of the advantage. The second theoretical advantage is Canada's Healthcare Data Foundation. We all know that data is controlled by a single source in Canada, that is the provincial governments, and it's less disparate relative to other jurisdictions. It is one of the largest and longest universal data sets in the Western world. And most importantly, it is also one of the most diverse data sets. I think the stat that is talked about very often is that more than 50% of Toronto's population is born outside Canada. And Toronto is the largest city in Canada, the fourth largest city in North America. Diversity retains global talent and their families. So there could be a future where we could be exporting some of the most cutting edge AI-enabled healthcare tools to the world. Some of this exuberance is reflected in recent activity by corporates, for example, recursions of opening offices in Canada, Roche launching the AI Center of Excellence in collaboration with Amy, Mila, and Vector. So we really do believe that Canada, and in particular Toronto, is uniquely positioned to produce many impactful healthcare AI companies because of the nexus of world-class health and ML researchers as well as the Healthcare Data Foundation. So this leads to the main part, that is like, let's see who are some of these companies that are taking advantage of Canada's unique position. So here we have a Canada AI and healthcare market map. Now, market maps can be cut in many different ways, and the list is not exhaustive. And so for our purposes, I have categorized into three main buckets that you can see in pink. So we have one, AI-enabled decision support, two, AI accelerating therapeutic development, and three, AI-enabled process efficiencies and data infrastructure for AI. So I'll take you through each of these buckets. So in the first bucket at the top, AI-enabled decision support is categorized into or mapped into the value chain of treatment. So there's diagnosis and screening, treatment selection and planning, and remote monitoring. Several companies in this broader category play across the spectrum or in 2 to 3 of these buckets, but has been categorized here for the purpose of clarity. So as you can see, diagnosis and screening is one of the most active spaces for AI and health companies that are emerging out of Canada. A large majority of them are using imaging as a modality to detect disease, which makes sense. And a large number are leveraging blood biomarkers and AI to detect diseases. In treatment selection and planning, as well as remote monitoring, this decision support is both for the clinician as well as for the patient. Over here, the most active indications that we are seeing are behavioral health, gut health, fertility, and the more research spaces of neurodegenerative diseases and chronic conditions like diabetes and cardiac health. There are some emerging demographic trends that we're also seeing in this category, which includes women's health and pediatric health. The other small category that is emerging in AI-driven decision support is prescription digital therapeutics. And prescription digital therapeutics can be considered to be a companion or alternative to traditional therapeutics. And here in the preventive health space, we're seeing a lot of activity in gut health and behavioral health, whereas in the past, we saw a lot more activity targeted to chronic conditions. The second major category at the bottom middle of the page is AI accelerating therapeutic development. So over here, you have AI for drug discovery and development, research intelligence and insights, and clinical trials. Now, there's a lot of companies in the drug discovery and development space that y'all are familiar with, that many of the people in the audience will be familiar with, like Deep Genomics, Protein Cure, Phenomic, Valence, that are all building discovery and development solutions leveraging AI. In this space, initially, AI was being leveraged for discovery primarily, and now there is a movement towards capturing total value by developing internal pipelines of assets, either as a net new disruptor to pharma companies, or as joint development agreements with pharma companies. The second bucket is research, intelligence, and insights. So here we have lots of companies in the space like BenchSci, SequenceBio, MIMS, and companies over here are using software to enable discovery and increase the speed and quality of medical research. And then finally, you have clinical trials. You have several companies, for example, Perceive in Montreal, Virgo, who are leveraging AI to make recruitment or patient recruitment for clinical trials more accurate, which saves from million to hundreds of millions of dollars for pharma companies and increases the speed of trials and therefore helps bring drugs to market faster. The last category is data infrastructure and process efficiencies. So over here, we have several clinical workflow and revenue cycle management tools to build process efficiencies in provider practices. You have companies that are playing in the data security and the interoperability space. And then there is a new category of infectious disease management where we will see more companies. The one highlighted here is Blue Dot, which was able to detect and identify COVID before, was one of the first institutions to detect COVID last December. So to summarize, we're seeing early stage activity across categories on the left that we just covered, the clinical indications in the middle, and demographic trends on the right. And in closing, I would like to reiterate, what we just discussed, which is Canada's unique advantage in AI, in developing, breakthrough AI and healthcare solutions. And our role in the ecosystem is to commercialize, support, and scale such innovations. And would be happy to, answer any questions and answer any questions either right now or offline on how we could do that.
Thanks, Ms. Sanjana, for the inspiring talk. We'll start with the Q&A. Audience, if you have any questions, please post in the chat. Ms. Sanjana, what advice would you give someone who has great idea in AI and healthcare and wants to pursue the startup path?
Yeah, so I think, a lot of the fundamental AI researchers their expertise is in doing the research and building out clinical breakthroughs. So I would say that, either go to other founders who've taken the route of PhDs in AIs who have started companies, talk to people who've joined companies and working with them, or talk to early stage accelerators or venture capital funds who can help you, get started off the ground. For example, we've incubated many AI companies, starting from all the way from incorporation and setting up bank accounts.
That's great. Yes, we have one question here. Out of the three sectors, I'm curious to know, where are you seeing heavy capital flow towards?
Yes. So I would say the highest capital flow is actually in the category of accelerating therapeutic development. So AI for drug discovery and development is seeing the most money flowing in, and as is research intelligence and clinical trials. You might have heard about the rounds with Deep Genomics, Cyclica, BenchSci, etc. I would say there's a lot of activity in the first category that I said, which is AI-enabled decision support and diagnosis and screening. But sometimes, there are various competing solutions. And if companies are not playing across the spectrum, there can be limitations in investors seeing value.
Another question is, while we almost have a single payer model, we do suffer with data silos spread across various healthcare providers. What is being done to reduce the negative impact of such data silos from limiting growth of many AI health startups we have?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why I said theoretically, that is an advantage. We have the AI for Health Task Force from CIFA that has published a report on building a learning health system for Canadians. There is limited availability and access of comprehensive data sets. And actually that creates a risk because scientists will focus and companies will focus attention to countries where data is more easily accessible. So there is work being done in investing in data systems, in shifting attention to understanding the scope of data, that is the sets of data that can be brought together, structured, unstructured, simulated data, representation of that data, adopting a set of standards, practices related to effective data privacy, data interoperability, and also regulatory efforts in recognizing the unique aspect of learning algorithms and developing regulatory oversight specifically for that. And I can post that learning systems paper from the AI for Health Task Force in the chat in a second.
Thanks, that would be great. There was just additional comment about AI and biosciences, the drug discovery being holy grail. And yes, otherwise it will be unsolvable problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that is why a lot of the AI for drug discovery and development companies that emerged shifted their focus from discovery to actually capturing the real value, which is actually taking the assets that they discovered through and through to development and building out their own internal pipelines. And I think pharma totally recognizes this and is already investing, acquiring, partnering with these firms.
Right. Another question is, Alberta's work on Connect Care is big on this subject. Ontario is currently working on a project to aggregate all anonymized healthcare data.
Yes, absolutely. And I think while we have the advantage of a universal healthcare system, it is still all the data is controlled by the provinces, and so each province is working on a set of different activities and actions to fast track this.
Sure. Can you provide a list of AI startups in Ontario for new graduates to look for job opportunities?
Yeah, so I would say that there are a few lists. So you can go onto our website, radical.vc, and there's a careers page. You can also go to prospect.fyi, and that has like a job board for companies. I know I just attended Shazia's talk from Altus Lab. She said that they're always looking for talent. You will see a lot of these companies hiring for talent on at least these two links that I've shared with you.
Thank you. That's helpful. Another question, do you see US dollars continuing to flow into Canada? How can Canada prevent the US overtaking us in this space?
Yes. So there's a good and a bad. So there is US dollars. There is a lot of US dollars flowing into the Canadian ecosystem, especially now. We've just seen so many US venture funds as well as US corporations investing or buying Canadian technology. And that increases competition, which is a good thing. The bad thing is that traditionally Canadian companies have, sold off very early or gone south of the border to launch their companies. Our sole purpose actually as Radical Ventures is to be that funder of Canadian companies that helps Canadian companies build and scale over here, but address a global audience so that we can retain the assets that we are creating. I mean, an example in the AI for drug discovery and development space is Atomwise that left. That was our loss.
Great. Yes, that's very appropriate. How do you evaluate the potential of the ideas, and is the funding only for a certain number of years?
So we evaluate the potential of ideas differently across different stages. So at a very early stage, it's really about the team and the total addressable market as well as the technology. So that's what we evaluate at the seed stage. At the Series A stage, we evaluate commercial, product market fit. So product market fit and growth rate of that particular business. So that's how we evaluate. And then, sorry, I missed the second part of the question.
Is the funding only for like certain number of years or like continuous?
Yes. So I think it's stage wise. So funding continues. So seed, to Series A to Series B, C, D, and then there is an exit. Either the company, lists and is gets through an IPO or is acquired by another large player. And usually, um, venture scale companies are expected to go from idea to exit in around 10 years.
Right. And for the startup ideas, is a working version enough, or do they need to have like existing customers as well?
So at the seed stage, you there should be a base technology. So let me give you an example. Like one of the companies that we funded and incubated that came out of stealth is Cohere, which is building large language models and as a competitor to GPT-3. When we funded them, uh, it was extremely early, but we funded them based on the research that the founders had done and our analysis on how large the market can be. So the founder of Cohere, Aiden, is one of the authors of the groundbreaking natural language processing paper on the transformer architecture. And so that to us means that there is founder market fit, that there is deep levels of research already gone into this. And now we can work with them to actually commercialize. So we can work with companies at a very early stage as long as that there is some evidence of research and founder market fit and a large market in front of us.
Are there any other success stories you'd like to share?
I mean, in terms, in at least in the healthcare space, another company in our portfolio is Fei Fei Li's company, computer vision pioneer. She is working on an ambient sensing company called Dawnlight that is in stealth, but it's been written about in the past. And again, over there is again founder market fit. One, because she's a computer vision pioneer. Second, because she is she had to deal with her own challenges in caring for her mother, who had, and she was the primary caregiver with whom she had gone to hospitals and doctors' offices and caring for her at home. And so she's trying to build a technology that enhances the role of the caregiver. And that's a lot of the AI that we see in the healthcare space, which is it's not replacing your caregivers, it's not replacing your providers, it's augmenting them. And we actually also believe very strongly in the AI tools that enable process efficiencies, because especially in the US, there's a lot of time spent by providers on administrative tasks, which can definitely be taken care of by a machine, which enhances or gives the caregiver or the provider time to actually focus on what they're doing.
Sure, thank you. In the chart, I didn't notice. Is there robotics also involved, or just plain AI?
In which company?
In the companies, the chart that you had on your slide.
Yes, yes. No, this is a combination of machine learning, computer vision, natural language processing is used a lot in coding and chatbots on the process efficiency side. Computer vision is used a lot on the decision side, machine learning in accelerating therapeutics, and then robotics in some of the surgical safety tools that we see.
Okay. I think
Yes.
the audience would appreciate the link to article you mentioned.
Yes, just give me a second.
Sure.
Uh, Here you go. Done with the report. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Just from your experience with different sectors, right? Healthcare, learning, and commerce, what challenges do you see in healthcare, um, and what are the advantages as compared to the other domains?
So the advantages is like I think we really do have a unique advantage, and we should take advantage of that specifically in Canada. In so, for example, I would say uh, in education and learning. So, so in education and learning, has some of the same challenges with healthcare in the sense that it is a private and a public good. It's a mix. There are difficult sales cycles in certain areas. So in education, we find that K through 12 is a tougher market to sell into, but lifelong learning has a lot of opportunity. Uh, there, we, there, the use of AI is much more mature in healthcare than it is in the learning and education space. And in commerce, it's there are just so many large companies in commerce that have the ability to build out their own teams, and then they're nimble. They've grown in scale over just the last 10 years, and so they invest a lot of money by themselves in building AI-based solutions.
Yep. Thank you so much. Um, do we have any more questions from the audience? I think it was a very insightful talk, and I would appreciate your time. And on behalf of the TMLS team and wonderful audience, I would like to thank you once again for your time. I encourage all the attendees to visit our partner booths and to enter in exciting giveaways. Um, thank
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.